Carsley say then? Where precisely does he want to play him?
I think it was going to be playing him at I think it was the right back, I think. I'll have to reconfirm that, but it was definitely going to be playing him in defense. As a defensive, was it? It's definitely not a defensive midfielder. It was a
It's not
defensive.
defensive midfielder.
No, it
I mean,
was.
that's crazy. If
It
he's
is.
going into the back, if he's going into the back four, I mean that is crazy. And one of the mistakes I never understand managers make is playing players out of their natural position. Now, okay, occasionally you're gonna need to do that, and you do sometimes get a utility player who can play in most positions. But I mean, in the case of Palace, and we've still to win a game this season after 7 games, and I still think our manager Glasner is good. But in the back three, partly because of injuries, but partly because of his choices, the back three, we've not had the same back three because we've been playing back three and then two wing backs. We haven't had the same back three in any 2 games this season. So it's been a different permutation of those players every single time. And of course, with some new players into the club, it takes a while for any player to get to know how other players playing alongside him, particularly how they play, where they're going to be, what they expect, how to get the ball passed to them. So if you keep chopping and changing the defence, the basic back three in defence, then you're going to struggle, and that seems to be what's happening. Um, but yeah, sometimes players are not being played in their natural position, and if that's the case, it's no wonder that any team will struggle. And I can't imagine Cole Palmer struggling at anything football wise. But
No.
yeah, even he's a human. He's vulnerable.
Yeah.
If he's not in his natural habitat, so to speak, then he could not do very well, and
Yeah.
that would be unfortunate because he doesn't need something like that showing loss of confidence or not playing very well. Everybody expects him to be creating but also scoring goals, and if you pull him to the back, well, he may still do it, but it's less likely that he could be the attacking player that he naturally is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's great at assists. So he's great at assists.
Mm,
So perhaps it could be helpful. It could be useful with making useful passes. But then it's still too far. It's too way back.
mm,
I mean, the only other option that I could think of is if we played a full attacking football, which means that all the players now go full force,
yeah, yeah.
then that could work. But if we just played one of those formations where like a normal formation, it's just gonna keep overlapping because
Mm,
he's that ambitious.
mm,
He's that ambitious that and if he overlaps, and there's a counter, we'll have a serious
yeah.
problem because he's not his
We'll have a
natural
problem.
position. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I wasn't very happy with it. I thought, well, what's he doing? That's not his natural position to play.
Because
Now another, yeah,
you mentioned the what they used to call a few years ago total football, and that was kind of introduced by Holland or the Netherlands, wasn't it, with Cruyff and others. And the whole concept was that, as you said, the whole team was actually playing football, even the defenders who normally are, you know, big brutes and just boot the ball forward.
yeah,
Um, now when they introduced this total football, every player was good on the ball, was confident on the ball, and
yeah,
that to a degree is kind of the case nowadays. There's not many big brutes, as I would say, who simply boot the ball up the field.
yeah.
So I think there was a legacy from that total football era to the point now, and it's something we may have said before, but I look at football, whether it's the European Championships, whether it's our domestic football or Italian football, and it seems that every team broadly plays the same way. Now, I know we talk about, excuse me, defensive tactics and, trying to score goals. Of course, there are differentials of emphasis, but actually, in terms of playing out from the back and then it goes out to the wing and then it comes inside, they go across the back a few times and then they pass forward. It can get monotonously the same actually if what because what I think happens, and it's what we've seen at Palace in recent weeks, um, the game becomes too slow. They're all focused on keeping the ball. They're passing it around amongst themselves, not penetrative passes,
Yeah,
making progress. And the crowd sort of say, forward, forward. And eventually they might do that. But if you don't do that at a speed, you're not really going to catch the opposition out. Something you noticed, I mean, our last game last week was against Liverpool.
yeah,
And although they won 1-0, in fact, Palace, once again, 2 weeks running, were denied what would seem to have been a clear penalty. And I think most of the pundits both weeks said, yeah, Palace should have had a penalty. And that isn't right when this VAR is supposed to be the be all and end all of taking away human errors. But of course, you've got humans still doing it, and they're still making some bad mistakes in my view. But and they could affect the game. I think the previous game, Palace were away to Everton, were winning 1-0, and actually they were denied a penalty, which people on Match of the Day, the pundits there said, yeah, it should have been a penalty. Now, if they got that and scored, there's no guarantee they would, but let's assume they did,
yeah,
they would have been 2-0 up with much more chance of at least drawing, if not winning that game. As it
yeah,
was, Everton came back inevitably, scored, and then scored another one
yeah,
and beat Palace. So once again, we haven't won a game. And then to get the next week against Liverpool, one of the best teams in the country, and arguably could have got a draw. I think probably Liverpool just edged it. But if we'd have had that penalty, we may have got a draw out of that. So it just seems sometimes there's a syndrome with referees and VAR, which is called big team syndrome, that there's an unconscious or conscious, but I suspect it's unconscious bias.
yeah,
You mustn't offend the big teams because you'll get roasted by the manager or pundits or whatever. So that's not quite fair. But but yeah. So but the point I was going to make was watching Liverpool. They mount regular attacks and they're so quick. And you see this with Man City, with Arsenal. They get the ball to the midfield, to the forwards, and before you know what's what, they're having a shot on goal. They've worked their way into the goal. It's speed, which is so difficult to counter when you're in defence. Obviously, you get good defences nowadays, and they can counter some of it. But what has concerned me a bit with Palace, we have a slow build-up, time after time, and there's no difficulty for the opposition to snuff out that threat of an attack.
yeah,
So, I mean, I'm sure the manager will instill in them, you've got to be quicker. But so far, we don't seem to be. But there have been injuries, there have been team changes, so maybe it will all come good. But I hope so soon, because if you can't win a game, you're getting towards November, and it starts in mid-August. Well, you're thinking this could be a season of struggle.
yeah,
But yeah, I think speed, and total football is great to watch. It
yeah,
really is great. And the Premier League players, that the better teams they've got the cream of the players really
yeah,
in the country, and they're quick. They control the ball, and they can score goals. So it's a thrilling game to watch in that situation.
yeah. This is all we've got time for, bro.
Well, that went quick. That went quick.
Yeah, it did. It did. Right. So, you've been watching and listening to the Football Referee with myself, Emmy Hikins, and he calls me bruv.
And me, Trevor Gear, and he calls me Cuz.
So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.